Here are our thoughts on 10 movies on Netflix in the month of June, along with a list of everything that's leaving.
Recommendations you can trust from a father and son filmmaking duo,
Hughens and Son. We'll count down from our least favorites to our favorite. Here's number 10. Rosamund Pike plays a tough scammer who abuses the court system to take guardianship over elderly people so she can milk them for their money. But when she scams an old lady with a mysterious past and some shady friends, she might just be in over her head. An intriguing premise with conflict and tension aplenty, yet one detail in the story ruined this watch. No reason to care for the main character. She's ruthless and cold. She takes advantage of helpless old people. Ultimately, the hyper-stylized color, camera angles, and forced badassery of cheesy acting couldn't be forgiven due to the lack of empathy in the main characters.
The title was I Care a Lot, but the problem was I didn't care at all.
We'd highly recommend to just watch Gone Girl, where Rosamund Pike already plays a psychotic yet mysteriously likable character without the melodramatic overacting. Available on most streaming services. Anna Fox can't leave her own apartment because of an anxiety disorder. She spends her free time looking out of the window spying on neighbors. As a peculiar family moves in across the street, Anna witnesses a murder in their apartment. As she goes to the police, they remind her she's crazy. Now, this is one of those movies where the main character doesn't know what's real and what's not, and we're put in their shoes the entire time. This can be pulled off under the right circumstances, like in A Beautiful Mind, where the protagonist becomes aware of his unique visions.
Though Anna Fox is a child psychologist, she never really does anything that gains our empathy. She goes against her doctor's orders and drinks with her medication, so that she's tripped out from the beginning.
Supposedly, this was inspired by Hitchcock's Rear Window, a film rich with suspense because we can understand the very real threats lurking in the apartment and care for the good-hearted characters trying to solve the mystery. When everything's a hallucination, I can't take it seriously no matter how inherently dramatic.
Watch if desperate.
But really, just save yourself and pay the small fee to rent Rear Window from the other streaming services. Dave Bautista plays Scott Ward, a mercenary hired to recover millions from an abandoned casino safe in the heart of a now zombie-infested Las Vegas.
It's like Ocean's 11 meets Dawn of the Dead, but nowhere near as good as either. Could be a fun premise for over-the-top director Zack Snyder fans, or lovers of cheesy zombie movies, but it left us feeling cold as the undead. Worn-out cliches were as rotten as the corpses in the Nevada heat, and the overuse of shallow depth of field with the cameras and the ever-trendy lens flares, even on gun muzzle flashes, kept knocking us out of the experience every time we tried to go back in.
Effects for effects' sake don't make good storytelling.
Speaking of effects, the zombies weren't even as good as The Walking Dead, and their weird guttural growl was laughable, and way too much like all the aliens we've seen in other movies. While we enjoyed Dave Bautista, we actually had more empathy for him as an actor having to appear in this film than we did for any of the characters in the film, and that just doesn't count.
Too many cliches, lack of empathy, and laughable zombies make me say, watch if desperate, or just watch reruns of The Walking Dead. JD had a rough upbringing in the hill country of Kentucky, but now he attends Yale with aspirations of setting a higher standard for his family history.
Just as he gets an important internship interview, he receives a call from back home that his mother is overdosed. He returns home to a past that has haunted him. Will he make it back in time for the interview? This was a nice setup for a rags to riches premise, with a strong goal and a clear protagonist that we could pull for. But every other scene in this movie flashes back to JD as a child. Because of this, it took our mind off the present-day job interview. Even with the interview looming under a ticking clock deadline, JD didn't show a lot of urgency to get there.
Engaging stories have a protagonist with an intense desire to achieve their goal.
Young JD is pinball from one abusive family member to the next.
While this may be true to life, watching a passive protagonist that we care about tortured repeatedly doesn't put you in an inspirational mood.
We left the movie feeling exhausted rather than uplifted. We were really knocked out of the movie when the director took us into a flashback within a flashback. Probably not a good technique.
This should have been a documentary instead of a movie. Watch later.
Bonnie is bored by her job as a waitress and is intrigued by Clyde when he shows up to steal her mother's car. So they join together as partners in crime. But Clyde ain't much of a lover boy. Will he open up to Bonnie? As their gang grows with recruits and relatives, will they remain off the radar of the law?
Though this film has been praised in screenwriting books we've read, I couldn't see what was so special with the story.
With a flimsy plot and vague goal, it was less about putting storytelling in the script,
but rather doling out character performances by actors who've been megastars since the film's release, and tangling it all together with supposedly fancy editing techniques, which actually made for scenes that didn't flow together, giving the movie an awkward and disorienting style of pacing.
Once the movie was over, Jackson was asleep. I woke him up and pointed out that this was based on a true story.
I'd rather go to history class.
Watch later.
Katie Mitchell's a quirky teenager who has a falling out with her nature-obsessed father the night before she is to fly off to college in California. So he cancels her flight and packs up for a family road trip in a bad attempt to save the relationship.
Along the way, a robot apocalypse threatens to destroy all humans. Will Katie and her father repair their broken relationship?
Will the Mitchells stop the robots?
Will Katie make it to college?
As we looked for the answers to these questions, we found some genuine moments of tension where we worried for the family's survival.
We admired Katie's passion and felt sorry for the dad, but these empathy moments weren't enough to keep us engaged when the cliches started piling up. Screenwriting books all agree you have to nail the ending. But the writers of this movie literally bumbled through 3 attempts before the credits rolled. In the beginning, we were interested in the flawed family overcoming their differences to save the world. But with the pop culture puke fest and cliches dropping like beats in a house mix,
we were tapped out by the third gift-plastered freeze frame.
Watch later. Daniel Craig plays a defrocked journalist who gets a shot at redemption by wealthy Swedish industrialist Henrik to solve the 40-year-old murder of his niece, Harriet. Henrik believes that Harriet was killed by a member of his own family. With the help of Lisbeth, an unorthodox investigator, they'll have to find the murderer before the murderer finds them.
But Lisbeth's delicate trust is not easily won. This is a unique setting that I've never quite seen combined with all the strong features of an engaging mystery plot.
The strange lead characters have depth and determination, all coming together for intriguing character relationships and arcs. I know the director, David Fincher, wants to be realistic, dark, and gritty, but I think the same story could be told without the gratuitous sex scenes.
Intensity and graphicness is part of Fincher's trademark. We just don't care to indulge in that.
But he delivers another satisfying dark detective movie.
Watch list. And probably avoid it for family night or date night. I'd just say watch it whenever you watch your creepy serial killer things.
Adam Sandler plays a gambling-addicted jewelry store owner named Howard.
He's just received a rare gem from Africa that he plans to sell at an auction for $1 million and pay off his loan shark brother-in-law, Arno. But the gem gets into the hands of basketball star Kevin Garnett, who claims it as his good luck charm. Howard trusts in the mojo of the gem and bets everything on one game. But will he be able to keep the loan sharks at bay?
This dramatic tension is why this movie is known for putting audiences on the edge of their seat.
We saw it in theaters and the audience actually recoiled at key moments.
This is due to all the stakes being put onto the gem, as it is tossed around New York with Adam Sandler bumbling around as the monkey in the middle of the conflict. Don't worry, this isn't a spoiler, but honestly, it doesn't leave you feeling rosy.
Our gold standard is that the story should come to a satisfying end. Usually that just happens to be a happy ending. Still, this story is crafted to leave you enthralled rather than dim. Though it's a lengthy, gritty movie starring Adam Sandler, he plays a deep character who doesn't know when to quit, at the center of a balancing act with conflict weighing down from every direction. Watch list. When the main character Cole gets in trouble at school, his mother dumps him off to live with his estranged father.
The last thing Cole expects to share his new room with is a horse. After a disagreement of values leaves Cole locked out of his father's place, he finds a soft bed of hay in a makeshift city stable, and a new friend in a very temperamental horse. His cowboy journey has begun.
The unusual setting along with the talented cast makes this an enjoyable watch. A main character with a lot to learn about life in the streets of Philadelphia and a lot to repair in his complex relationship with his father makes this a film for you to sink your teeth into.
The mood is dark and gritty at times, but inspiring and uplifting overall.
The depth of the characters and their arcs are expertly written, and the empathy perfectly placed to keep you engaged through all of the tension and conflict.
With the interesting premise, likable characters, quality acting, and uplifting ending, Concrete Cowboy is a film you'll want to saddle up and ride along with. Watch now!
Marty is a kid from a slightly dysfunctional family who is friends with an eccentric scientist named Doc Brown.
After a time travel experiment goes wrong, Marty ends up in the past where his presence causes trouble. Can he find Doc Brown, fix the trouble he's caused, and make it back to the future before it's too late?
Though this premise was unique when it came out, we're all familiar with these elements now, and yet it's still engaging every time we watch it. This is because the writers built it upon a solid foundation with lots of satisfying setups and payoffs.
It's not the special effects or sci-fi or time travel that make it a good story.
It's all about the empathetic character with a strong goal and lots of obstacles to overcome. Since we have empathy for the cast of lead characters and understand each of the powerful motivations behind their conflicting objectives, the whole movie has an electric energy that pulls you in from start to finish.
But we consider it one of our gold standards when it comes to engaging the audience. It truly stands the test of time.
Watch now because it leaves June 30th.
Before we show you everything that's leaving this month, leave a comment. Out of these 10, which number will you watch?
Give a thumbs up if you found any help from this video. The leaving list will also be pinned in the comments. If you want more recommendations like this, make sure to subscribe. There will be more videos on the way to help you find what to watch on the major streaming services. Alright, so you don't want to come in at the end? Alright.
Alright, what? Oh, yeah. No, don't look at that.